July 1st, 2020 meeting, regular meeting of the Ojai Planning Commission. And first of all, Sherry, can we have a roll call? Keep it short.
Chair Quillisi.
Here.
Vice Chair Nolan.
Here.
Commissioner Lottis.
Here.
And 2 vacancies.
2 vacancies. All right. I'm trying to remember who did the Pledge of Allegiance the last time. That was Powers. Commissioner Nolan, if you'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Okay.
Find a flag to stare at least virtually.
Yes. Okay. Well, you can pretend to please.
There we go.
I pledge allegiance to the
To
flag
the flag
of
of the United
States
of
of
America.
and to
and
the
To the
republic
republic
for which
for
it
which it
for
stands,
which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and
with
justice.
liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I can see there's some audio delay in the system
I
here.
know I was kind of going slowly to accommodate for that.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was very thoughtful. Okay, next on the agenda is public communications. Sherry, have we received any email communications from the public?
No, we have not.
Okay. James, do you have any indications of anyone else wanting to join electronically and speak with us?
Council member Francina has joined.
Okay. Welcome, Council member Francina. Are you here as liaison, or did you want to take part in public communications as well?
I'm here as a liaison. I just was late because I was at the Go Ojai meeting.
Oh, there you are. Yes.
Am I here? I only see
I can see you. You're standing there with your bicycle.
Oh, all right. How
yeah.
do we get rid of that? Let's see.
All right.
If you hit this start video, it's usually on the bottom left of your screen. You might have to hover.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Turned
Yeah.
on. Okay, thank you.
Oh, there you are.
Sorry, it's me 4 years older.
I thought that was a very charming picture with you and the bicycle.
Yeah, I like it too.
Yeah. Okay. Did you wish to say anything during public communications? We have no other members other than commissioners here.
Oh, I'm sure I'll think of something when it's
Commissioners and staff. At the end. Okay. Very good. Then next on the calendar is our consent item, the minutes of the regular meeting of the Planning Commission of June 17th. Do we have any comments or corrections by the commissioners? Hearing none, could we have a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, I motion that we adopt the Ojai Planning Commission minutes from June 17th, 2020.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Sherry, a roll call, please.
Quillisi.
Yes?
Nolan.
Yes?
Lottis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Terrific. Okay. Disclosure of site visits. We have no sites on the agenda tonight other than the director's exemptions, if that becomes of interest, but we'll come to it later. So we have a discussion item, the Title 10 cleanup and errata, agenda item 2. And Lucas, would you take us through that, please?
Yeah, sure. So as you all recall, on June 17th, we went through roughly in between 34 and 36 sections of the code, and that also included errata and other discussion pieces, fairly minor in their revisions, but creating kind of a consensus, if you will, which is kind of what we're looking at doing here first. Is I would call this the foundation to building revisions to the code and doing a deeper dive into some of those revisions. So that's where we're at here. This is that second half but it's not quite a half. It's less than that to what we're looking at for today. It's about 16 different sections that we're going to be going through. I know at our last meeting, it was helpful and I think productive for us to go through each of those sections and kind of read through what those revisions were. The difference with this administrative report from what was done last time is I've included some very, I would say, brief descriptions of what each of these sections have in terms of their revisions. I know the commission had identified that it would be helpful if they knew kind of ahead of time in reading the agenda report what some of those revisions were. And I think that's, if the commission is agreeable to this, I'd like to do this for the staff reports, the agenda reports moving forward as we dive into this deeper, I guess you could say. So with that being said, does anybody have any questions before we dive into each of these sections? That's kind of what I was thinking we would do, follow that same format from last time, unless the commission is interested.
Any questions for Lucas? For starters, I do want to say thank you. As you know, Lucas and I have been working on this, and the descriptions that you find in the staff report, I was quite impressed with because they give you a good sense of what we're suggesting as changes and why, which is exactly what Lucas and I have been discussing for a couple hours at a time, a few days a week here.
Yeah, we're taking bites out here.
But thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you
At-
both.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
That
I
is
like
huge. Yeah.
the summary is great. And the legislative format is great too. So
Okay, good.
really
'Cause this is-
appreciate
Okay.
that.
Good, because this is the format that I'm thinking that we'll use so that as we look through this, we'll see that it's this section. These are the overview for the revisions that we're looking at here.
Yeah.
And a brief, some of them went into a little bit more than others simply because there was more meat there. So it was necessary, right, to draw out that information.
Yeah. Lucas, could you also review where we go from here to get any changes in front of the city council?
Yes. So that's a really good question. And I think we probably should talk about that just briefly, or I should mention that briefly before we go into these code sections. The vision here is if the commission is agreeable to these changes that we're looking at here in terms of red lines, is to bring this back to the commission at their next meeting, but it won't be as a public hearing item. It'll be as a discussion item, similar to what we had done for the animal keeping ordinance, where we brought back a discussion piece with the entire code section of revisions, having that discussion, looking at these one last time, and then bringing back a public hearing item whereby there will be a more defined ordinance brought in where it'll include whereases and a format that will be very similar to what we'll be seeing going forward for City Council. As you will recall, the process for review here is the Planning Commission acts as a recommendation body on code updates and text amendments of this nature. So it would be a recommendation as a second meeting item through public hearing, and then taking it to City Council as a public hearing item for their consideration. And this is obviously one piece of that too. So there's also phases that we're looking at here. After this is done, then we'll start phasing in some of the deeper dives into the code sections, as well as revisions and updates to the zoning map and other components that I know the council has requested, and from what I gather, it was requests that were submitted for consideration over a year ago in some instances. So we're trying to catch up to that.
Yeah, that last piece that Lucas is talking about, at least I think, is that the BAB recommended certain pieces of Title IX be moved to Title 10. And so at some point we'll need to find out first if the council accepts that recommendation and actually asks us to take those on as part of Title 10. And if they do, then we'll have to analyze those with the same eye that we're doing what we have here now.
Right.
Our next meeting is on the 15th. Are we going to have a public hearing and a text amendment at that point, or is that a meeting after the 15th, Lucas?
It would be after the 15th. So the 15th is where we'll have the discussion with the full, with all the sections provided. So it would be the meeting that we had on the 17th, as well as this meeting, as long as everybody's agreeable to these changes, as a discussion, and then we'll set the hearing, the public hearing date for the meeting to follow.
Okay,
I have a question.
please go ahead.
Oh, as we're going through this, I kept coming up that, we're going to be doing our general plan update, I believe, in the very near future.
Mm-hmm.
Will we be having to go through this again for another round I know this is our Muni code, but I guess potentially whatever comes out in the general plan, then we'd have to go back and make changes here again down the road.
Yeah, I think
Maybe
what
in a
you
couple
can
years or something.
you can
Yeah.
expect a implementation
yeah.
plan to come out of that. And
Right.
if I recall correctly, I believe the city council also authorized a zoning conformance report to be done. So both of those will help to kind of guide us in those revisions. I see those as being separate from what we're doing here, the work that's being done here. The work that's being done here is really revisions that have been, from what I can gather, long overdue.
Right.
And really kind of independent of the general plan update. The general plan update will have its own revisions depending on what comes out of that.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Yeah. And to give you an idea, this is a small section of the things that have errata or incorrect references, things of that sort. There are about 15 or 16 items here tonight. If you recall, at the June 17th meeting, the commission decided that it would be a good idea to expand on the references to articles that didn't have chapters and titles with them, or chapters that didn't have titles with them, that kind of thing. And so that's one of the things that we just picked up, that Lucas and I have just picked up, is about another 80 instances in Title 10 where it would say refer to Article 32. It didn't say Title 10, Chapter 2, Article 32. And that change is that type of errata change that we're recommending. But there are about 80 of those. So we have a fair amount of volume to go through, though it doesn't necessarily require a lot of deep thinking for much of this. It's just trying to get Title 10 to where it's internally consistent and legible.
right. And
So-
I know that in our last review, before we start going into this, there's an interest in going into a deeper dive on some of this. Let's stay on the surface in terms of the changes that we're looking at here. And I would encourage that we do that deeper dive and maybe even make notes. I know I've been doing that throughout some of these sections as a discussion piece for future for me, because I know that when this does come back, there are going to be a lot of sections that we're going to be looking at. This is relatively small compared to what we're going to see even at the next meeting. So, any other questions?
Okay, well, Lucas, if you'll take us through these
Okay.
15 or 16 sections, then we'll
All
go
right, so-
ahead and
Thank you, Chair Quilisi. So if we start with section 10-1.04, which is powers and duties, in here we have, which is really the removal of the RDA plans, and it just speaks to the general plan, as well as that reference to the RDA redevelopment area. On the Title 10 reference, deciding concept design review permits and tree permits. and then a California Government Code reference to the Conservation and Planning Act. So we've got a correct reference to that as well.
I had one comment. If you go down to D, to do all things necessary by majority vote to carry out the provisions of, including deciding concept reviews, design review. Does the word deciding need to be deleted?
Yeah.
Or I feels like to me that it did.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I see that.
Just the wording seemed a little cumbersome and almost that
It
it's
is,
implied,
yes.
yeah, without having to spell
Great.
it. Yeah.
Good
That
catch.
was my only
And
comment on that page.
remember, we got the advice from the city attorney that including means including but not limited to.
Right.
Right.
But so I know this is borderline between like going past clerical corrections, but I mean, so it's just funny. So we're adding concept reviews, design review, but we still are omitting. We haven't included conditional use permits or variances, which are,
Yeah.
you know, significant
Ah,
Yeah.
duties.
Yep.
Can you tell me what page you're on now?
this is attachment A, page 1.
1 of 39.
Yep, for item 2. So CUP, you said CUPs?
Yeah, I would
Or-
want to add conditional use permits and variances.
Oh, page 1.
Right. And variances can cover minor variances and variances if you just,
Yes.
unless
yes.
you want to
Yeah.
be technically.
And I would put that at the front.
Yeah.
Conditional use permits, variances, concept reviews, design review, permit requests, and tree permits.
All right.
And
Makes
put those
sense.
up at the front ahead of concept reviews, okay? And I note somehow we lost the subsection E notation on that last sentence. F disappeared, but E did not appear.
Oh, I see that.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be careful in Word when you put parenthesis E parenthesis. It gives you a euro symbol.
Mhm. All right. Any other questions for this section?
Okay, so we have a change to 10104.
Yep.
Very good.
All right. So then with moving on to 10-2.202 sub C. So this section identifies when the property is annexed into the city, it receives a zoning designation, a pre-zoning designation of A, which is unusual considering an annexation typically has a development or purpose in mind. So I actually did a little research on this. I was curious as to what and I'm not saying that this needs to be changed, but in looking at it, the government code section for annexations doesn't speak to pre-zoning designation. It seems like it's to the will of the city. So then I also reached out to LAFCO, which handles annexations into jurisdictions. And there is no pre-requirement from a zoning standpoint. It's something that apparently cities have put in, because I see this actually for not just this city in particular, but I was looking at some other cities that I hadn't been in previously, and there's a consistency there, but I'm not seeing the requirement from a government code section standpoint.
Well, also the A zoning district would be confused with the agricultural zoning district that we
Yeah, I
have
had that comment
already.
also.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's on
Um,
page 13 of 39. It refers to the agricultural one, and they both basically have the same title. Yeah, I had that notation as
Yes,
well.
yes, right, in 10602.
the top of the page.
10602.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, there was one other change on that page, which we discussed on the 17th, and that was in subparagraph B1. We added or alley,
Or alley,
center
right?
line of the street
Right.
or alley.
Right.
And I'm wondering, Lucas, could we say hereafter, not previously classified by the city? Well, anything that is annexed would not have been previously classified by the city because it wasn't previously in the city.
It's in the county. Yeah.
Yeah, the only
and-
thing that I can think of with that is that you would pre-zone a property through the land use map. So the land use map, you can pre-zone properties that are outside of your jurisdiction,
Oh, interesting.
and do it within the sphere of influence.
Right.
In the event that they do end up getting zoned or brought into the city, annexed into the city. So there is that, which could be the reason for the general A zoning district designation. But
It's a placeholder almost.
it feels like a placeholder.
Yeah.
We're not necessarily saying that we're looking for any sort of a revision here, but it's something that is to be considered or even reconsidered as we do a deeper dive here.
Okay, so we won't change it now, but we'll hold it for further review.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to section 10-2.304 B, which has the removal of numbers of rooms from the sentence. The second half of this subsection discusses parking and use not being changed. So it's interesting, if you look at the subsection B, it reads interior remodeling, and then it says interior alterations that do not increase, and then I've removed, or we're recommending to remove, the number of rooms, or, and then it goes on to say, the gross floor area within the structure, or change the approved use of the structure or parking requirements. So initially the thought was the number of rooms have little to do with this statement, simply because the parking and the structure, so basically the parking standards themselves are still being regulated through this, through any sort of an increase that we're looking at here in terms of the gross floor area within the structure.
Yeah, if you haven't changed the gross floor area or the use of the structure, changing the number of rooms seems unimportant.
I mean, you could essentially have more bedrooms and more people and more cars, but
But that would affect the parking requirements potentially, I think.
yeah.
Depending on who the people are. If you're renting, you divide a space and make 2 bedrooms and rent one of them,
Yeah.
then you've got an interior ADU. And that might affect your parking. Oh no, ADUs don't affect parking, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Right.
Exempt, yeah,
As long as they're within
Holy.
that buffer, that half-mile buffer of a mass transit.
that's right.
Yeah. Which almost everything in the city is, I think.
The vast majority, yes.
Yeah. So any other questions on 10.2.304?
I'm good.
Oh,
All right.
All right. Moving along here to 10-2.402. So with this one, it's a revised land use to read allowed use as a title.
Mhm.
And it's to remove the confusion from the land use map through the general plan. And then it also has in here revisions for note 2, which was added to the right of the title, under, actually to the right of permit required by district. The note has been previously referenced and should be inclusive of each residential district. The note addresses each district and calls attention to an applicant reviewing and complying with the residential growth management section of the Ojai Municipal Code. So here, the land use table, it's confusing to call it a land use when it really is an allowed use. I mean, there's even a discussion of removing land and allowed and just calling it a use. Although I do like the allowed because there's the restrictions
Right.
applied within each of those zones, whether it's a CUP permitted, a minor CUP.
It tells you how it's allowed, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Agreed.
Mhm.
And
We're in our
and I've
meeting.
often seen it'll be listed as permitted uses, but I think allowed is the permitted is a little bit of a misnomer since not every a conditional
They're
use.
not all permitted, yes.
So yeah, I think I'm good with the allowed, the approach to use allowed uses.
Okay.
And the subtitle under table 2-2 already says allowed uses. I'm wondering if back on 102304, Lucas, should we
Mhm.
change land use permits there to allowed use permit requirements?
Oh, as the title for the section?
Because, yes,
I would maybe just say use permit requirements or something.
okay.
Just remove
And
land?
article,
I
remove
don't know.
land, okay. And Article 3, if you look at the titles at the top of 102304, Sherry was kind enough to put in title, chapter, and article
Right.
references for each one of these.
Very helpful.
You've got development and land use approval requirements. And I think land could come out of there just as well.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Development and use approval requirements.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry, back to 102402, Lucas.
Right. So then there's also the inclusion to the right of the title, permit required by district. And if you look at note 2, it says, unless otherwise exempted, which is at the bottom of the table, new residential uses may require growth allocation pursuant to city's residential growth management plan. And then there is actually a revision in here because it has chapter 6 of title 10, but we need to add in chapter 2 there. And
Do we?
Instead of chapter 6, or it's
Oh, yeah.
you're
I
going
thought it was title
6.
10, chapter 6, just rewriting it in the same form that we discussed on the
Oh, wait a second.
17th.
Yeah, so it would be
So the title comes first,
title 10,
chapter 6.
It's the order.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
And ours also in note 1, it just calls out Article 20, and we should now say Title 10, Chapter 2, Article 20.
Yep. I agree with that.
I do have a question on the note 1. I guess I don't really understand it. So it's saying some permitted uses in special purpose districts may require a design review permit. But why? I guess I'm not sure what is the purpose of that, because development in any district might require a design review permit.
I think it's calling attention to specific districts. So within the design review permit applicabilities, I believe it is for Article 20, it identifies specific zones that have, I would call it the litmus test is much tighter. And if you want, I can even go to that section. We can just take a brief, a quick look at it. Let me just
Look at Article 20. Yeah.
yeah.
Commissioner Lottis, I'm not sure that every application for a development in a residential district requires a design review permit. If
Right.
the applicant meets all the requirements, it could be ministerial.
Right, but it just says some permitted uses may require.
So it's
Well,
drawing
Yeah,
attention
We're
to
back.
that
We're
section.
back to a use needing a design review, which is kind of
Yeah.
silly.
Yes.
Okay, well, can we look at the Article 20?
Article
Yeah.
20.
You bring that up on the screen.
Hold on one second. Let's see. There we go. All right, James, can you have me? Can I? How do I share my screen?
One of those little controls at the bottom says share screen.
Yeah, it's a green
Bottom center.
little arrow.
Reactions. Oh, share screen. I see it.
Yeah,
Sorry, I wanted you to walk all the way.
it should work.
Okay, here we go. Share. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? Yep.
Okay. So this is Article 20 Design Review Permits. So if we go application applicability, which is 10/2/2003, there are standards in here. The exterior, and I think really what some of that is getting at. So it's this entire section here, right? But really, if you look at it, some of that stuff that would apply could be even what we're looking at here.
Mm-hmm.
Any exterior alterations. I mean, that's much more restrictive than what you would see in just a general single-family residential. And it even calls out the specific zones here, which is your C1, your BP, your VMU. All those are within, you could say to a certain degree, a special district. So I think that's kind of what it's getting at. And in addition to that, it's 2 stories. There's also this 2-story component. If it's single family, single story,
Then it may be a ministerial decision, you're saying.
precisely.
Yeah. Also, down in section B, it says, notwithstanding the provisions here, the director may exempt from design review.
Yeah,
So-
so that's where the director's exemption comes from, right here.
So I think that note that says some permitted uses may require, meaning not necessarily all.
Right.
But it really, I mean, but the problem is it's alterations that might require design review. It's a second story it's the addition of a second story, or it's an alteration to a commercial structure, to its frontage, or, whatever, additions. But it's not, the permitted uses don't trigger a design review permit. That's not even, there's nothing about permitted uses being triggering design review, even in this section, I don't think. It's alterations. So
Oh, okay. Would you feel better if instead of note 1 saying some permitted uses, saying some projects in special purpose districts may require a design review permit?
but it would be alterations, and I guess I'm not sure. So wait, are we?
I have a question too, Kathy, and I don't know if
We're not just talking about special purpose districts. I didn't think are we with note 1?
So I think to me that's maybe a little confusing. In other words, is there a definition in the code for special purpose district that includes the elements that we just went over, whether it's VMU, commercial, or a second story residential, et cetera, that actually falls under a special purpose district?
Yeah, so let me...
That's a little confusing to me. If it's
just
there and it's defined, okay.
Yeah, because, well, the
It isn't.
table, Yeah, the
Language.
table, we're talking about residential zoning districts on this table, right?
Yeah, not commercial.
And
It's in a separate, and the VMU is in a whole separate section, so maybe,
certain alterations to a residential structure
Here it
or a
is. Here it
second
is.
story.
yeah. Let's see what it's.
Your SPL overlay for affordable housing would make
Oh.
a normally residential district into a special purpose district of a
Okay.
sort.
Even if it were, yeah, so if it were all one story.
Right. And then should it be capitalized or not? For instance, the title is special purpose zoning districts, but then when you start reading the purposes of the individual special purpose zoning districts, so are we using it? I don't know. I just don't want it to be confusing.
It's it's very confusing.
Yeah.
Because, it's
Yeah, it's
construction that requires design
Mhm.
review. Although, in addition to the affordable housing, I guess.
So here's
Yeah.
if you look here, you can see the special purpose zoning districts that have been highlighted here. They
Mhm.
include the agriculture, the open space, IR1 through IR3, and then the PL zones. Those are all considered special purpose zoning districts. You notice,
and none of them are in table
none
2
of them
too.
are
No.
labeled in, yes.
Right.
So we may want to note that and look at how we resolve that moving forward, that maybe it's a revision to the special purpose district, and making sure that we're clarifying that it is in fact single family or just residential zoning district.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess because that note is there currently, and you were just trying to clarify because it was already.
Make use of it, right?
Okay.
Right. The other thing is, if we do finally agree to consolidate these 3 land use tables, then I think that note would be appropriate, because the left-hand column will have all the special purpose districts
Right.
as well as the residential and the others.
Yeah,
Right.
that would be the future once we, decide how these,
Right.
how this is going to work out.
Right.
Right.
Is it
And
separate, or do you get it all on one?
Yeah, and in that case, it might be better. I mean, I don't know yet, but it might be more clear to say some projects in special purpose districts, or if that's really the case.
Yep.
Yeah, because these tables talk about what kind of a permit you need, but
Right.
they say permitted or CUP or MCUP or MUP, but they don't talk about design review permits or tree permits. So maybe we shouldn't have it in there. We have rules in here that say when a design review permit is required,
Right.
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 but it's really not in the table.
It's right. It's not related to uses. It's related to
If it's allowable or a
development standards, really.
Well, yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, if you look at note 1, some permitted uses granted in districts that are not covered in this table may require design review permit. Okay, but you can't look at the table and see if anything in particular requires a
Right.
design review permit, unless it requires a CUP, I guess. But that's a use permit. It's
clear.
not a design review.
Right. Right. It's not really. I agree, Steve. Chair Felicity. It's not really.
Steve works.
It doesn't really. It's real. Yeah, it's not really related to anything in the use table. I agree with that.
Right. But when we consolidate the use tables, it will apply
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
So
But we may even want
maybe we just leave it alone for now and then figure it'll come back later.
Put a note, a notation.
And I should mention
Yeah.
in the phasing at the very beginning, before we started diving into this, the use chart that we have spent lots of time and several meetings on will certainly be within this review process as well. So we haven't forgotten about it. It will definitely be resurrected and a part of this process. Okay. Any other questions regarding?
Okay.
Let's see, what section is this? 10-2.402.
10-402.
Or even comments, I suppose. Not necessarily just questions.
Ah, the RS is residential special district. So we do have a special district in this table.
Or you just found that?
Oh, yeah.
Is it a special purpose district? I don't know. It's a special district.
Yeah, it just says special residential. The wording doesn't
Special
necessarily
projects.
match up completely and wholly.
Yeah.
With anyway, I don't know that I necessarily need to keep sharing this.
Let's make the corrections to the footnotes and the notes and come back to it later when we need to.
Okay. Duly
Would
noted.
that be all right?
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to section 10-2.504. So in this one, we have revised reference to a specific article to allow the format of title, chapter, and article throughout the section, which is what we're doing throughout Title 10. And then also adding 4 exterior alterations to subsection B4 and adding and minimum to subsection B6. The exterior alterations inclusions clarifies, design review pursuant to Title 10, Chapter 2, Article 20, which is the design review permit, which we just spoke about a moment ago, for property within the VMU zoning district. Note number 4 was also added to Table 2-5, whereas previously not been a reference, and provides additional clarification to the VMU standards. So you're seeing that title and chapter for page 8 of 39 at the bottom of which is subsection B4, and then the inclusion of 4 exterior alterations there as well. And then turning to page 10 of 39 is the subsection
Under
C.
paragraph 6. Yeah.
Yeah, or 6, I'm sorry. And it includes and minimum limits and then also the title and chapter format that we've all discussed. The same thing is true for 7, which includes the title and chapter.
I have a question on subsection 6.
Okay.
So I'm just asking for clarification. So if we're saying the basic allowance defines maximum and minimum limits that may be further reduced as a part of the design review process, are we saying that we can, is that saying we could modify somebody's minimum lot size, for example? I'm not sure.
Yes, it says we have the power to permit someone with a smaller than standard lot to do something that's talked about in this table.
Okay, but that's because it's an existing non-conforming lot. We're not allowing somebody to change the minimum lot size as a part of design review. When I read that, I'm a little it sounds like you can change, it sounds like you can modify maximum and minimum limits as a part of design review, and I don't think you can. I think that's a very,
okay.
generally speaking.
I see what you're saying. I think the sentence, if shredded of other material, says the basic allowance may be further reduced as part of the design review. So what are the basic allowances?
Well,
We're talking about development.
Yeah, there's a column under VMU called basic allowance.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
So we're saying you can change any of those requirements? Like front setback, 20 feet.
Like maximum density,
Maximum.
5.445 square feet per dwelling unit.
So wait a minute. So median. So in the VMU, the front setback is a maximum of 8 feet with an average or a median of 20 feet. Is that what we're saying?
That's what it says here. Hmm.
I mean, I'm just trying to.
No. The eight refers to a note.
Oh, the 8 is the reference
Oh,
to the
oh,
note on the below the table, right?
oh, okay.
Right.
Oh yeah, where it says medium setbacks. Okay, yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve, yeah, for that.
Okay, so let me see. So
That little cell is hard to read. Median setback 20 feet, max required.
Hired.
Go to note
Parentheses,
8.
the 8, yeah.
This may be something we want to note for a deeper
Yep.
dive, because I can see
Right.
a
Yes.
lot of red flags for me in terms of how I'm
Yeah.
looking at this
okay.
as a basic allowance for table 2-5.
Yeah.
504.
I mean, I understand. Yeah, with a non-conforming lot, they come in. They've got an existing non-conforming setbacks. They have a smaller lot. It doesn't comply, and they want to add something. That's fine. I just can't. I just should like change the site coverage from 50% to whatever.
This
You know,
could be
20% through design review. I'm not sure that
Yeah.
that's okay.
Well, but
And
that notes that piece 6 on page 10 says the basic allowance may be further reduced. So we may decide that site coverage of 50% is wrong for that area.
yeah,
and
that's
we could
less.
say
True.
you're allowed 40% instead.
Right.
Okay, I get right. I got that. Yep. Well, okay.
so,
But
I mean,
that
a
cell
substandard-
there a
substandard lot, or even in terms of any of the standards, whether it be lot coverage, width, or even depth, we turn to the non-conforming section of our code
Mm-hmm.
and start there, and then work forward from that point on.
Right. Okay.
So it does have remnants of feeling like we're giving them a variance, but you've also got to remember, if it's a substandard lot, they're already working with less than what you would typically see.
right.
Kind of a give and take there.
Okay.
That's
I
like the discussion for sure.
Yeah, it's good.
okay.
I had
So
a question
we'll
on-
revisit.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
We'll revisit that basic allowance column.
Yeah,
There are some changes in there now that we discussed on the 17th that were just clarifying references and or deleting a reference in the case of floor area ratio. But I have to say, those setbacks, those little cells there under basic allowance and setbacks, I'm not sure I understand what they mean, Lucas. So we probably should go back and look at those.
Hold on, I want to make sure I'm right, because I've already highlighted 6, which talks about the basic allowance that
Right.
Commissioner Lottis had brought up, but you're also
Basic allowance is a column in the table under VMU,
Mhm.
right.
and the 3 cells there about setback.
Inside and
I've read them again, and I still don't know what they mean.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they need
that's
to
a deeper dive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't want to dive too deep into it, but median setback.
Gotcha.
If you look at note 8, it gives what I would call a definition, which seems inappropriate for this location. If we're going to have a definition, it needs to live in the definition section
exactly.
of our code, and not
Okay, so
under a
yeah.
note.
All right.
Maybe the note needs to say see median setback definition under such and such.
Yeah.
But it provides a definition here. At least what I'm seeing here is a definition. And I'm not really too thrilled with its location either. So I think there's definitely lots to be discussed
Yeah.
with this.
Yeah.
with this
Yes.
with this table and probably even this section.
Yeah. I
So
have a comment on number 5, if we're done with 6.
okay.
Same page, page 10.
Page 10.
Yeah, so number 5 says, each project subject to design review shall be evaluated for compliance with the general plan policies that promote pedestrian or bicycle transportation modes and community interaction within the VMU zoning district. Compliance shall be determined case by case basis by the decision-making body. But then it goes on and it references the rest of that sentence, the master pedestrian circulation plans. I know that we have, and Councilmember Francina worked on this one, but I believe it was from 20 years ago. And I don't know if the title's correct, and I'm not sure if, I know when we did the Complete Streets master plan or a policy and master plan, they were kind of like, I'm not sure of the order of.
Yeah, there's a circulation element
If
in
one
the
takes
general
priority,
plan.
and if the names are correct, so that would need to just be
Yeah.
explored, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, we have a circulation element in the general plan, but I'm not aware of a plan with that title on it.
Yeah, there's the bicycle and pedestrian master plan that was done, I believe.
I have it. Want me to bring it up?
I've got it too on my shelf. But then,
And is that adopted by council?
Yeah, not
Okay.
implemented, but adopted.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's just kind of a technical
It was called the Bicycle Pedestrian Master.
master plan, exactly.
Okay.
And then, yeah, all under the circulation element, but then we also have the complete streets, and so that just needs to be cleaned up, that's all.
Yeah, my other thought is, and it has an or statement in there at the end, which says payment of in lieu fees
Yeah,
established by resolution of the city
Yeah.
council. I'm going through a development
Mhm.
impact fees report right now, which will be going to council, and I don't remember seeing in lieu fees as a part of this. So
The first question would be in lieu of what?
in lieu of what exactly?
right, it needs to be further defined, I think.
So yeah. Okay, that's a good catch.
Yeah.
Good
Great.
catch. Yep.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
Now we're ready for the next section.
Okay, I was gonna say going
10
once,
to
going twice.
602.
Moving
10
right
to
along.
602.
And this one, I do have a question. I think we brought it up at the beginning. Steve and I both had the same question. But
Okay, a reference is identified in subsection B, but the reference is not and should not be identified on the zoning map. So let's go to that one.
Right.
Okay, so we've removed that language. That was actually, I think we actually discussed that because I have that highlighted here.
Right.
From the previous meeting of
Mhm.
June 17th.
That was the only place in that section, I think, that referred to the zoning map
Right.
as opposed to zoning districts.
right, and then we have the question about the A zoning referring to annexed, and the A zoning now is an agricultural district. Maybe it's
Right.
AG for ag. I'm not sure. There's maybe a technical way for resolving that, but they essentially both have the same name.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That needs to be
So-
further.
yeah,
Yeah.
Back on the other one, we probably need to think of a new name for annexed land.
Right.
other than the A zone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
unless agricultural becomes like AG or something to that effect.
That could, yeah.
There may be some, code terming that other municipalities are using or that's generic.
And then we need to put somewhere a definition of annexed land.
Right, back on that sheet. Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah,
But otherwise, the 10-2602 change is pretty simple.
yeah.
Hold on. Let me go back to the annexed portion here so I don't lose that train of thought. Here it is.
Yeah, page 2. Yeah.
Yeah, I would be in favor of leaving A meaning agricultural and thinking of some other name,
for the
because the A is already on the zoning map and it's
True.
here in the code already.
Yeah,
If we come up with a different name
we got to change everything.
for annexed, we have to add reference to it somewhere, so it might as well be a new name.
Mhm.
Good call.
All right. That makes sense. Any other questions on this section?
Can I ask what just happened? May I?
Yeah.
Sure.
Are you saying that ag should remain A?
Yes, and annexed should have some other name than a zoning district.
Okay, you probably know that ag is often called ag. Agriculture is shortened all over the place as ag.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
It doesn't matter to
if
me.
people would, yeah.
That's your choice. I just thought ag was so simple.
Yeah, so
Well, I
you're,
guess we can ponder that for when we come back to this 10.2.202.
Mm-hmm.
okay. Well, and I may have more information by the time we come back that'll
Yeah.
clarify some of that, and maybe even some red lines in there that we can we can chew a bit as well.
Okay.
Moving on to 10-2.604. So in here, you'll see that there's the highlighted areas in yellow. Those are the areas that we have discussed in terms of making kind of a global revisions, that title, chapter, article, and then removing of this chapter, and that's being done globally throughout Title 10. And then specific plan being capitalized, the S and the P in specific plan.
Can I ask, why are we capitalizing? It's a minor point. Why are we capitalizing specific plan?
It's a special term in the code.
Yeah, so specific plan has,
But we're not capitalizing other.
Yeah, that was my question earlier too, even with the special purpose district. Is it a defined district or is it just,
It's a specific plan could be, it's a general reference to any specific plan that could be made, could be created, or one that's already in effect.
right.
Right.
Capitalized.
Anyway, I'm just saying, I'm not sure why we're doing that. It's
I
not
have
a
the
big
same
deal.
question,
It's not a
Kathy.
big deal.
Yeah.
whenever I think of a specific plan, it's kind of like a master plan, right? Even if it doesn't have a specific reference to it, there's an understanding that when you're speaking about a specific plan or even a master plan, that you would capitalize the S and the P. Is it proper grammar? Maybe not, but from a zoning code standpoint, I think it is. I think there's some consistency there.
Well, there's also a bit of potential confusion in the capitalizing, because in article titles, look at the top of page 14. Article 6, special purpose zoning districts, all of them capitalized. When you get down into the section title, only the first word is capitalized.
Yeah.
So we see usage both ways here.
Yeah, and we saw that a couple pages back when we were talking about the special district. It was very similar.
Yes.
When we went back into the code, it had it written out in lowercase, which to me would be more descriptive rather than is it a specific item and thus capitalized. I don't know, maybe this
Right.
is semantics, but to me, if I'm looking something up, and maybe I'm wrong, but my assumption is when it's capitalized that okay, now I'm going to go find that specific plan.
Yes, that was my
Rather-
thought as well.
Yeah,
If it was capitalized,
It's an
if
item.
specific plan is capitalized, then there is a document someplace with
Yes.
that name.
Yes.
and the
Right.
same thing with the special district.
otherwise it's kind of like, well, it's a tract map, or it's a zoning regulation, or it's a development standard. Anyway,
Yeah.
Generic. Yeah,
that's all.
yeah.
And actually, I don't know that we actually define specific plan. I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah.
10-23602.
Going once, going to, I don't see it. It's not defined. And 10-23602. It's not popping up when I do the when I do a find search or a search.
But we do in fact have some specific plans in the city.
We do. We have
There was a Maricopa
Right.
and the Bryant
and Bryant Street, or yeah,
area specific plan. Correct.
right.
I mean, it's certainly called out in state code, but we could incorporate some of that in a definition.
Yeah.
And the state code is likewise inconsistent in capitalizing specific plan.
Oh,
One of the I could put a note in here to put a definition in the definition sections for specific plan.
Let's do that in 3602.
Yeah.
We may find that in the spreadsheet we've been working.
Okay.
Can't mute the dog, so you have to mute the communications line.
Okay. Moving on, is there any other questions that we have? You see on page 14 of 39, there's the B that was added. That's the correct reference to the OS, which is section
oh, I see. Yeah.
10-2.606.
For the setbacks. Yeah.
And then the rest of it was just adding title and chapter where articles were called out.
Yeah, we did get rid of the wording at the top of page 15 of 39, which is note 1, which
Oh, yes, right.
lot area allowed within the OS zoning district from 10 to 80 acres. And then it says is indicated on the zoning map. Well, I've looked at our zoning map and I think we have it at the end
It's
of
not
our
there.
package.
Yeah.
It is not there. And I don't think that we would want that there, because that sounds to me like more of a land use or general plan piece, and shouldn't be living in our zoning map.
Not part of the definition of that zone.
Right. So yeah, so that would be and then obviously on page 16 of 39, once again following that title, chapter, article format that we've been discussing.
Okay.
Oh, I do have a thought. I was thinking about this the other day when I was working on another code amendment, and so it crossed my mind that in here, in some instances, we have the specific title or section that this is that the title, chapter, and article is falling under, and sometimes we don't. So, like for instance, on page 16 of 39. If you look at it, it says as required by Title 10, Chapter 2, Article 14, and then parentheses it has parking and loading standards, which gives you kind of a brief understanding of what you're going to be turning to.
You know, I actually really like that, because I'm somebody that I read Title 10, Chapter blah blah blah, title blah blah article, and I'm just like,
then I got to go look it up.
What is that? So a little clue that tells you what it is. Personally, that's very helpful to somebody like me.
That's a very useful. That's a useful global change. Yes.
I think it is too.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's
Okay.
really good.
So we'll add titles to the article callouts.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's
Make
great.
a note on that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Good.
All right, 10-2-703.
703. So in this one, we have, this is really errata for the most part, with the exception of sub E2 and then capital D, which reads, provisions for circulation between adjacent parcels should be provided through coordinated or joint parking plans and agreements, or other methods determined appropriate by, and then it says, it just tapers off there. It says determined appropriate. Doesn't give any sort of a lead in terms of who has that authority. And here we're saying director or commission. So there's a distinction. I think it would probably depend on whether or not it's, in most cases, I would think it would be before this commission, before this body for consideration. I can't think of
We
any.
in fact had a case like that a while back, ladies, if you recall, out on the east end, on the south side of Ojai Avenue,
Mhm.
there were a pair of businesses that were sharing a parking lot because one was an evening kind of
Right.
clientele and the other was a daytime
Big time.
clientele.
There in Hakani Sushi, possibly. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And
That
then,
is a project that we have in currently. And that would be another example where we're working
Right.
with them on that.
Right.
they were doing dinners, and then it was a veterinarian or something that was working days.
Yep.
Or a pet spa.
No,
I don't
Yeah.
remember.
A beauty shop.
Yeah, it's a hair salon.
Beauty shop. Okay.
Right.
All
Yeah,
right.
so realistically, anytime that you're having or doing expansions to buildings and you're following all the parameters, and then you come to the conclusion that the parking standard exceeds the parking count that you have on site, you've got to go out
Right.
and find that additional parking.
Exactly.
So it's saying just deemed appropriate, but we really need some sort of an approving authority there.
Right.
Right.
And that's what we're looking for. And then if you look on page 18 of 39, it's errata, which is
Mhm.
consistent with what we've been doing up to this point.
Right.
1.5% and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Correct.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
hmm
Moving on to section 10-2.704. Here, this is the special housing overlay, the SPL district. You'll see there's areas within here that are highlighted yellow. That's following that format that we were talking about before. And I
Mhm.
would mention that the way in which this format we have currently would also include that parentheses. So Title 10, Chapter 2, Article 19, for instance, if I look that one up real quick,
Hmm.
give you an example, because I don't know what section that is.
Yeah, I don't either.
Currently.
Yeah.
That would be zoning clearances.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's really helpful to just have that key little clue.
Mhm.
All right. I agree with you that as we work through this, we're not only trying to make the code internally consistent and correct, but make it more readable for the average person who walks into City Hall.
Exactly.
And those titles would make a big difference. I think you're right.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about that too, Steve. Just a quick comment. Like the more clear the information is, I'm hoping, because I know we hear this from applicants, you know, oh, the process was crazy and I didn't know I needed to do all this stuff or I didn't understand. But the more clear this is, I'm hoping people look.
Right.
Or so
Right.
they should be. But so once again, internally, yes, but then also for someone who's an applicant trying to pull a permit or something,
Yes.
they could
Make it-
actually
make it-
go in here and go, okay, I get it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's a great idea. Thank you,
Yeah.
Kathy.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any questions with this section? And I would note, I see at least two examples of chapter, title, section that we'll be making
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
revisions to.
Yep.
Yep, there's one on 21, there's one on 22.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, no.
Should we put chapter titles in also? I think that would help. So there's
Yeah.
one on page 23, paragraph F, historic resource protection. Instead of this code, we can put in the title of Title 4, Chapter 8.
Mhm. Did you get page 20 also, that there's one on
On page 20.
C2?
Oh, yes,
C2.
right, under
Yeah.
C2.
I already looked that one up. It's
Yep.
the
You did
overlay
already.
zoning district.
Oh, good, you're ahead of us. Ahead of the game here.
Okay, 20, 21, 22, 23.
Mhm.
There's one.
Mhm.
Chapter 8.
On 24, there's a reference to Title 9, Section 9-1.101. That could use a title. And just above it, Title 10, Chapter 2, Article 20.
Mhm.
And farther down, Title 10, Chapter 2, Article 20.
Yeah, on 3C, yeah.
Now, do we want to start putting in section titles? If we make a reference to a specific section?
Let's just use. Let's try to find an example. Is there an example in here where we have a specific?
Bottom of page 24.
All right, let's use that
Right.
one.
Under G, yeah.
Oh, see section 10 to
And tables.
902.
41.
Yes,
that one. Look
that sort of reference occurs everywhere in the code.
like
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
There's one in subsection 3 above also.
So just think about it this way: 10 to
Yes.
902 is, and it's tables 4-1 and 4-2. So all that section it just says definitions. Article 9 is affordable housing requirements and incentives.
Uh-huh.
And then-
Article 9. Oh,
yeah, which is the
Okay.
article that the subsection of that article is, or the section of that article is definitions.
Yeah, well,
902.
where the table is. Mhm.
Table 4-1 is affordable rent calculations. Table 4-2 is affordable
that would be
sales price calculations.
affordable sales prices, yeah. So do we want to put the titles of all these of chapters?
Or just the
title,
articles.
chapter, article, section, and table. We have 5 different things that we could insert titles for.
Yeah, that sounds very long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
without being, too much. I mean, I definitely agree on the articles that we've been going through.
Mhm.
And I wonder if that's just kind of the generic information that's enough information that you're in the right place, and then
Okay,
you
and
have
if
to
we
look
call out,
something up, you know.
yeah, if we call out like we do at the bottom of page 24, if we call out a specific section,
Right.
should we put the article title there, or just leave it and not worry about it? Figure they'll find the section. That's
That's
the way I
question.
had been working through it.
Mhm.
You know, if it calls out an article, we should say what title and chapter it's in. If it calls out a chapter, we should say what title it's in. But
Right.
if we call out a section, then the
Right.
title
Just-
and chapter and article are all incorporated in the section numbering.
I see what you're saying.
And not all the subsections have titles.
Oh, then we'd be kind of stuck, wouldn't we, on some of them?
Maybe if we just stop at the article, title,
Articles?
chapter, and article level.
Yeah, I actually do like just stopping at that. I think once you dive
Stop
deeper
at the article level. Yeah.
into
Yeah.
section, subsection, I think at that point you know where you're living. You know exactly what article you're living
Exactly.
in and referencing. It's
Got
giving
the
you
umbrella.
a bigger, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I think that's good.
Okay, so wherever we call out an article, we'll put in the title of the article.
As we've been
Okay,
noting
yeah.
Right, great.
on all
Yep,
the other
got it.
previous sheets, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions regarding? Oh, this one is a little bit longer than the others. So there's
They're
some
on
wording.
page
There's some
26.
wordsmithing. Yeah, there's some wordsmithing that's going on here at 26 of 39.
Yeah,
If you look at I at the bottom,
yeah.
the last sentence, as part of this process, a design review permit must first be obtained, and then it says by operation of. We removed that and instead inserted in compliance with, which is much more appropriate.
Right.
Mhm.
So,
That's good. Yeah.
all right.
Okay.
And any other questions? Going once, twice. All right, let's move on to section 10.2.803, height measurement and exception. In here we have on 28 of 39, we've removed or alley. Let's just make sure that makes sense here. Development proposed adjacent to any public or private street or alley intersection shall be designed to provide a corner visibility area for pedestrian and traffic safety. 3-2. Oh, that's right. So this is the intersection visibility area. So that or alley. So here it's the example.
I think or alley should stay in.
I
Yeah,
actually kind of think that too, looking at
I
it.
do too. Yeah.
agreed.
So I'm almost saying that this deletion be that we
Reject
not-
the deletion.
reject
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Keep it with or alley. Yeah.
Okay.
Delete the deletion.
So then on page 29 of 39, we have 2 has some changes, and then I'll introduce something here in a moment after I read it. 2 says at, and we've included intersections of alleys with, and then we've included with driveways, or of alleys or driveways with streets. And then it continues, the visibility area shall be defined by measuring 10 feet, and then we've included feet, demarcation feet from the intersection of the extension of the front and side property lines and connecting the lines across the property. And then we also have a figure 3-2A. So something that I thought would be kind of fun here.
Is that misnumbered then?
Nope, it's
No,
not.
Well, are we missing 32-A?
We're not. So if you go to attachment B of the packet,
Oh,
we are in attachment A currently. And
I see. Okay.
I wondered what that was at the end.
Yeah, I did too. I saw
Yes.
those 2 little dangling participles.
yep, these are two examples of potential
Yeah.
figures that we could add in.
Yeah.
I know we're doing a lot of errata and wordsmithing here, but this is kind of a design thing I thought would be kind of fun for us to look at here. I have 2 examples here. I kind of pulled some examples from the internet and then went in and modified them to kind of have more of a Ojai flair to them. But I'm not sure which one makes more sense, if either one makes sense. If we need to look at even additional revisions, we can bring that back to the July 15th meeting as well. But
I would definitely include it. I think the graphics always help.
Mhm.
And then, like you said, we can bring it back and decide which one's better.
so it's 2 examples. It's not that figure 3-2A?
Is it 2A. This would be one
It's
of
not that
Yes.
3-2A includes both of these. It would be
it's
one of the
them. Yeah. We just have to pick
Yeah.
which one we think is the better of the 2.
And if there's
or maybe a mixture of them. Yeah.
yeah, or a mixture.
Yeah.
I'm pretty open, obviously, to any sort of revisions and comments to these. I'm not married to it.
I
Mhm.
liked page 1 of 2 in that it was simple,
Mhm.
but I think instead of alley, it might say alley or street because it's clearly showing a driveway.
Right.
But we've also talked about intersections of alleys with streets, and that's not covered here.
Hmm.
And attachment B, page 2 of 2, shows clearly a driveway and a street, and it says front lot line,
Right. It shows
but
property
the
lines.
driveway doesn't always come out on the front lot line. Sometimes it's the side lot line.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, Steve, your idea of a hybrid may be the way to go, where we may want to take some of the language from one and add it to the other. Just do a little more labeling so it's really clear, whichever one we end up picking,
Right.
selecting. Of course, they're always, they're an example. They're not
It just, yeah.
going to match what everyone has, but it's
right.
But I
general
think it's easy
information.
to get the idea of
Yeah.
what's required. It's
Exactly.
so,
On attachment B, page 1, we could change alley to street or alley,
yes,
and that would cover
yeah.
everything except an alley with a street.
Right.
But it clearly covers 2 of the 3 cases. That is, driveways with
Mhm.
alleys and driveways with streets.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that it's labeled visibility area, so people get it, okay. Oh, now I see what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
Yeah.
It's clear. You could even
Yeah.
label the little structure, I don't know. Or maybe that's not necessary. Maybe that's overkill. That's a garage or a carport or
Yeah, I mean, I did have
Right.
that label and I took it out because I was like, I'm not sure that that's the.
is that redundant? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's implied, the graphic implies.
yes.
Yes.
And sometimes it's outdoor parking.
Right. And it's,
That could be an ADU with a driveway in front of it.
exactly. And no carport or no
Right.
garage. Yep. But we could label the driveway. I don't know if that's overkill once again. Well, we'll think about it. It needs to
Yeah.
be clean,
Okay.
clean but obvious.
Right.
Yep.
All right. So it sounds like the revisions would actually be to the first one, which is page 1 of 2, and not necessarily page 2 of 2. And even if we do end up moving forward, if the commission ends up moving forward with page 1 of 2, I can go in and clean this up. Right now, it's a little bit fuzzy.
Mhm.
I think it's partly
Yeah.
how it's printed out, but I can go in and clean that up through.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that would work for me.
Okay.
Agreed.
I'm okay with that too.
All right. Very good. And that concludes. I don't think there's any. Okay, yeah, that's the end of the revisions. Aside from the 36 inches, the errata there. 10 to 803.
How about 10 to 804?
So 10 to 804.
Yeah.
Here we have some of that standard language, specific plan, capitalization, the
Correct.
title, chapter, article.
Titles, yes.
Now, interesting. If you look at sub B2, we have articles 2 and through 7.
Oh yeah.
That's an
What do we do
interesting
there?
reference there.
Well, we'll put in 2 titles.
What page?
Well,
But it's actually more than 2. It's 2 through 7. So it's
2
2,
through 7.
3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
What
Um,
page are you on?
That's a good catch.
Sorry, it's
Page 30.
page 30 of 39.
Oh, you went back to page 30?
Yeah.
Because
No.
we went back. You're talking about
Attachment
looking
B.
at attachment B.
Yeah.
Correct. We've gone back into attachment A
Okay.
to finish up
Thank you.
the section discussions. Yeah, sorry. So it's
In that B2 paragraph, we can call out the articles one by one and put their titles in.
we can. I'm not sure what is okay. So Article 2. Let's just see what that looks like. So Article 2 reads and is entitled Zoning Map and Zoning Districts. Oh, it's interesting. Articles 2 through 7,
Yeah.
that is zoning districts, allowable land uses, and zoning and zone specific standards.
Oh.
Right, development standards,
Okay.
right.
You could
That
just
actually has
use
its own
that.
title, 2
Shorten
through
it,
7.
Yeah, good. That's good.
Well.
That's better than what I thought it was going to turn out to be.
There we go.
Okay. I'll try to figure out something that's not too long and laborious for that one.
Okay.
Then page 31, we have a recommended change to the labeling within the figure.
Mm-hmm.
Not something I can do. Maybe you can do that, Lucas.
Yeah, I'll have to go in and do some. There's some minimal revisions there. Photoshop is good like that. But yeah, it's really that you see that little tiny structure, and then they have like an arrow between the two with the dashed interior setback, modifying that to say minimum distance between structures.
Yeah, that's better.
Interior setback is confusing because
It
there is,
Yeah,
Right.
there already is an interior setback.
Right.
yeah.
All right, moving on to page 30.
I'm sorry. Lucas, didn't we change the 3 feet to 4 feet already on D1?
Wait, which section are you looking at?
On page 31,
Mm-hmm.
D, and then 1,
Oh,
where it says or not
Right. You see,
in height.
right. See where it says 6 feet? There's
Yeah.
a little dash under the feet sign.
Yeah.
That means take it out.
so it's not redundant. Yeah, that's good.
Are you taking out 3 feet also?
No, we're taking out the little foot sign after the 3 within the parenthesis,
yeah.
Souza.
And I'm saying that I'm unless I'm confused, council already changed the height.
Oh, you're right, Souza.
Huh?
You're right. I remember when we were discussing this and then it went to council.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well,
I don't know. This is what's currently in the code.
Well,
So
we
if council has dictated a
It has been
change,
adopted.
it hasn't made it into the final code yet.
Just to clarify, we're talking about fences or walls 6 feet or less in height above the finished grade of the site
Not hedges.
when located outside of the front setback area are not more than 3 feet in height within a front setback. So I know that council and certainly the commission has discussed it, but that revision has not taken place yet. There's a code amendment that still needs to go back to council for consideration for fences,
Well,
wall.
then I jumped the gun. I already heightened my fence.
Oh, you're out of compliance.
I would look. I think you should double check that because I'm almost certain. Maybe somehow it didn't get into this, but
I know it was discussed, yes.
Yeah, it was discussed. Yeah.
I can go back and look at the tape or something.
I know that there certainly it felt like there was consensus in going back and watching. The reason why it's fresh in my head is I'm working on that code amendment currently, actually, for fences, walls, and hedges, which this commission saw, and it went before the council, not on one occasion, but 2 occasions, in July and in September of last year.
Yes.
But it has not come back to the council for final consideration.
Oh, okay.
I spent $500 to add another foot to my fence so the dogs wouldn't scare anybody that walks by.
Well,
We won't say anything.
Well, if you see a code compliant officer, hide, Susan.
oh, geez.
It's all on public record now.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, I don't mind. I'll deal with it.
All right, so moving along to page 32 of 39. Are there any questions here? Once again, we're looking at title, chapter,
Mhm.
article. Article 20, I believe, is
Yep.
the design review permit.
Well, and we added a note 3 to the table there, table 3-1.
Right.
Design review permits, yes. Oh, yes, and then adding a
gonna go-
note.
2 through 7, yeah.
Standards for
Exact levels.
yeah. This was a note that we added, note 3, which reads: see section 10-2.404, table 2-3, and the development standards tables, which is then title 10, chapter 2, articles 2 through 7, for exact allowable setbacks and projections. I don't know about exact. Maybe we could take exact out, but
Mhm.
just really allowable setbacks and
Okay,
projections.
Right.
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 What about like a swimming pool? Does that come under this or
Um,
does that fall under?
are you talking about the projections into the specified setbacks?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. No, within front setback areas, no. Within rear, yes, you can have them within rear.
Right.
Yeah. And there's still another round of review to, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Steve, go ahead.
There's another round of reviews to be done here, I think, because the tables that talk about setbacks, I don't think jive exactly with figure 3-4 on page 33. Remember that, Lucas?
Oh,
We talked about that. The projections into the setbacks on side setbacks were not consistent.
you're talking
Where
about
do the
3-4?
eaves? 3-4 and figure 3-4 and table 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
Don't match.
I
Yeah,
think they're still not exactly aligned.
You have a 10-foot setback, the 10-foot minimum distance between structures, and then 2-story structures is 15, and then what is this 36?
For example, it talks in the table a roof structure. It talks about cornice, cave, eave, awning, or roof overhang,
Right.
side setback 30 inches.
So projecting
On
30 inches
the-
in.
And this
In
is
the
like,
figure, it shows 36 inches
36.
max.
Actually, I just saw that. You're right.
yep, you're right, Steve.
So we need to go back and align
Which one it's supposed to be, yeah.
table 3-1 and figure 3-4. But that one I think is probably a policy thing that we're going to have to recommend one number or the other, for example, to the city council.
Yeah.
Well, even the fireplace or the chimney in the table says 24 inches. And on
Right, and in the figure it says 30.
30.
30. Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that doesn't match. What about the let's see, balcony porch stairway, or the window, the bay window? Oh, 20% of the setback, or
20% of the interior setback, whatever that is.
But on the figure, it's identifying a maximum.
Yeah.
I'm not really seeing a maximum of 30 inches. anywhere
No,
on table
No.
3-1.
No.
no. So yeah, they
was-
need to.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay, no, that's a good eye there. That
Yeah.
needs to be revised.
We just need to align the table with the figure.
Right.
Yep.
And then, yeah, I guess. Roof structure without walls. Oh, okay. Stairway.
Okay.
A roof structure without walls, Kathy, could be a carport if it just has
Yeah, I was
posts.
looking at that. Yeah. Could be.
Carport, shed, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. A shed without walls, I guess.
In the Midwest, we call those hay sheds.
Oh,
where all they're
that's
doing is
right.
covering them.
Hay sheds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
hay
feed lots or the feed stores around here will oftentimes have those.
Yep.
They're
Yeah,
covering hay.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like a roof.
In another life, I spent a lot of time in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, so I've seen
yeah.
a couple of hay sheds too.
Oh, yes. All right, so moving on to 10-805.
Yeah.
Fences, walls, hedges, and screening.
There we've got a title on page 39.
Yep, so it's the title,
2,
chapter, article. I'm seeing, yeah.
Article titles.
Okay. The same thing is true for 35 of 39, page 35 of 39. It's errata and then the title, chapter, article.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's it for that. That's all I'm seeing for that section.
Yes.
Uniform building code. Okay.
No.
Oop, 37.
All right. Moving on to section, unless there's any questions on that one.
No.
No?
Mhm.
Okay. Moving on to 10-806. Once again, it's that title, chapter, article.
And I think if we put in the title of Article 16.5, we probably don't need that notation 10.2.16.501 at sec, because that's what Article 16.5 is.
Yep. 16.5. Is that the
It's
that
the only
right?
one I know of in the code where there's another period somewhere after the 10-2.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other article that has a decimal point in it.
Yep.
All the other articles are whole numbers.
Not sure what we were thinking there. Okay.
Well, it's part of that general 2004 rewrite.
Mm-hmm. So 16.5 is the exterior lighting standards.
Right.
Okay.
right.
That's good.
We'll put the title in.
All
We'll
right.
put the title
Yeah,
in.
that's good.
And also on C, Tivoli Lights article refers to Article 20,
Mhm.
which is the design review process.
Right.
Tivoli lights, yep. And then E is uses shall not generate or emit any obnoxious odors or fumes that are perceptible without instruments by a reasonable person at the property lines of the site. And then it says, except those associated with motor vehicles in regular working order.
Mhm. Otherwise, you'd have complaints about every motor vehicle that went to a construction site,
Right.
because they all
I'm
emit
just
noxious
kind of laughing
odors.
at the like I don't know what that really means, but it's fine for now.
Well, I'll give you an example. Okay, and I do live outside of the city limit, but just for an example, I had a neighbor install something similar to the hay shed with the roof, but you could use it as a carport, and they obviously didn't pull a permit. It was like right up to the property line of the fence. And then somebody else moved in, and these guys were painting cars in that and spraying. And I
Wow.
went to my garden one day. I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, what is it?" And I figured out what it was, and I said something to them, and they
Oh.
just kept doing it. And finally, they moved. But that was
Yeah.
basically that's illegal.
Yeah.
It is illegal.
So
Yeah.
I'm just using that
Those
for an example. Other than
Solvents would be
cars,
obnoxious odors, yes.
yes,
Yeah.
something like that could happen. And you have the drift of it. Ugh.
Yeah.
But that's just an example. But go ahead and we'll finish. And then I do have a comment when we get on that page, but I'll wait till we're done. Until we get to the bottom, and then I'll.
Okay, so H has all storage of appliances, furniture, and other similar equipment or materials shall be within a permanent structure and completely screened from public view. And then we've added, except for temporary storage during construction or remodeling under an active building permit.
That's good.
Yeah, I did have a question about that though. I mean, like, does that mean they are using a pod, for example, or does that mean
That's what you see all over town, yes.
Yeah.
I had a couple of pods in my yard when we remodeled.
right? But it could also mean somebody could just put all their furniture out on their front lawn. Anyway, I don't know if we can reference something about a pod or anyway.
Maybe, yeah.
Shipping container. or
Maybe
something like
instead
that.
of saying except for,
Storage
we said-
unit.
including temporary storage, then it would still have to be
Yeah,
completely screened from public view.
okay.
Mhm.
All right. All right.
So at the top of the page, not to be a troublemaker, but I'm going to say this. So it says all land uses shall be operated and maintained so as not to be injurious to public health, safety, or welfare, and to comply with the following standards. A, uses, activities, or processes shall not generate or emit any visible dust, gases, or smoke except as necessary for the heating and cooling of structures in the operation. That's back to that motor vehicle. But that's exactly what leaf blowers do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad
Good
that
point.
the city has changed, they're electric and now you're not having the fossil fuel. But the dust and what's in that dust, I don't know. I'm just trying to, personally, I would
Yeah,
go
that
for the
might
leaf
be-
Well,
blowers,
yeah.
but I know we're not going to, but
I think in the future that might need some work. Yeah.
All right. We'll note that.
Remember, this says except as necessary for heating or cooling and operation of motor vehicles. So
Yeah.
your electric leaf blower is also not supposed to generate or emit any visible dust or gases or smoke.
Yeah. But like operation of motor vehicles on the site. So we have a house in the neighborhood and they love to do probably unapproved work on many, many vehicles.
oh yeah.
And, what they do is probably fine under this. But I'm not sure it's really, anyway,
It's quite a bit.
yeah.
It's legal but not pleasant.
Yeah, performance standards are, I mean, they can be complicated. So again, for now it's fine, but I think maybe at some point we might want to look at these for better, some small improvements.
All right.
Yeah.
I have noted that here, so we'll come back to that.
Mhm.
Any other questions? All right, moving on to 10.3.04 application. Here we're following, I would say this is basically errata looking at this, but then also referencing correct sections as well. within this. The areas highlighted in yellow, once again, those are the areas that we've already talked about in terms of creating that consistent title, chapter, and then where necessary, article. But here we just have the title and chapter.
So when we just have the title and chapter, should we put the title of the chapter? I mean, I know for what Sherry extracted here for us to look at, the title and chapter titles are there. But
Yeah.
in the body of the text of the code, they're not.
It's not, yeah.
They don't lead every section.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be helpful because here
Okay.
it would be. I mean, you already know what you would assume that you know what section or what chapter you're in.
Right.
Above, we have a cheat sheet that says subdivision regulations.
Yep.
Also, it kind of goes along with, there's 3 places where we've got the act, and I think you could
Oh,
combine.
that's the Subdivision Map Act, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what is the act? But if you reference subdivision regulations, you could probably remove the act. Or I guess those are state subdivision regulations. Anyway, nobody.
We can put
nobody
we can
knows
put
what the act-
subdivision map. Yeah, we can put subdivision map back in front of act on that second line.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In fact, that was done near the top of the chapter. It referred to probably 10-3.01 talks about the Subdivision Map Act, parenthesis, the act. And then
And then you could,
after that, throughout the chapter, it's just called the act.
Yeah.
okay, good.
Indicated at the beginning.
Yeah.
I have one minor spelling error.
Please.
All right.
The second to the last sentence, therefore, should have an E at the end.
Good
Oh.
catch.
That's a good catch. All right. Any other questions?
This is why we like all those sets of eyes looking at
Yeah.
this and the brains working it.
I know. So
Absolutely.
many times I've missed something that I've done, and then you read the final document that you've already issued, and I go, ah.
Yeah. I know.
Typo, or I did something, missed something, yeah, or spelled something.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
it wasn't in spell check.
All right, our last section for tonight is section 10.13.05, fee for new development. Here we're referencing the correct section to what's being described here, and it's the
Talking
it's
about,
the
first
off-street-
part is about parking, yeah.
Yep. Looks like. And then the last one, the last sentence here, and I'll read the whole thing. Since this is our last one. The city council has determined through the study that new development creates the need for increased off-street parking facilities. Based upon the calculations contained in the study, the city council finds that new development creates the need for off-street parking spaces as required by, and then we've deleted the section that is really the incorrect section, and then we've identified and included the correct section, and the table that's referenced within that as well. And then it goes on to say, and to the extent the developer is unable for any reason to provide such parking on site, the cost to the city to provide each off-street parking space in lieu, therefore, is, and then there's an amount here of $3,140 and 1/100ths. So it's $3,140, or a different amount adjusted as prescribed in section 10.13.07. So we've added that in because one would assume then that it's always going to be this 3140,
Mhm.
but that's not true. We adjust that every year.
Right.
is
Yeah.
something,
Right now,
is something around 6,000 or 7,000 now.
The
That's
correct,
good.
I think the current amount is right around $7,100. I don't have the exact amount. It's like maybe 7,134, something like that. So that gives the reader the correct reference to know that,
It could be
Like-
just, yeah.
yeah, to know that it's not just the $3,100 and that's what we're looking at. It's adjusted. And that ends what we're, unless we have questions on this one, that concludes my presentation.
You could almost, we could almost say, let's see, that last sentence and go, in lieu thereof is the amount as prescribed by section 10-13, because the 3,000 is totally
Yeah.
completely
Is,
outdated.
Yeah, Lucas, can you look up 101307
Change.
and see, does that specify an exact number that gets adjusted year by year? Or does it say we're going to increase it by 2.3%, in which case we need some kind of a base?
So this section reads, the cost attributable to providing one parking space set forth herein shall be adjusted as of July 1st of each year to reflect changes in the cost of construction of off-street parking spaces as determined by the construction cost index for Los Angeles from January of the previous year to January of the current year, as reported in the engineering news record. So we subscribe to that. We get that on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis. I can't remember. So we get that engineering reporting index. I guess it's a magazine. So we end up putting that calculation together as of July 1st.
Okay, but the calculation and a final answer of the cost of a parking space is not in 101307.
No, it provides you
Then
with the
It's a process for how to find it.
Correct. Which
Is the cost in the master fee schedule?
I don't believe it's in the master fee schedule.
It is not.
Okay, that was Sherry.
Okay,
Oh,
so right now there's no place that says what the cost, the in lieu parking fee is per space. There's nowhere in the code that number is shown,
No,
or supporting documents to the code.
correct.
We ought to fix that. Even if it means that if we can put the exact number in 13.07 and change it once a year, I think that's okay. Or put it in the master fee schedule, that gets changed once a year.
Mm-hmm.
I know the city council reviews the master fee schedule every year.
Right.
Yeah, this code
Yeah.
section is kind of interesting. If you look at the last time it was revised in 1992. So
Yep.
it's long overdue for a little bit of an overhaul. So
But that number, whatever number it is that you find in the engineering report, you said,
yes,
what number, what do you multiply that number by to get an exact dollar figure?
yeah, it's an equation.
It's not
So
this 3140.
No, the 3140 I think was the calculation that was done in 1992.
mhm.
Right.
It's outdated. Yeah.
Yeah. So the number that gets calculated, and mind you, each year, staff goes through that calculation and adjusts that number. It would be nice just to have it in there as a standard rate. It'd be a lot simpler. And
It would.
Or at least an
Right.
updated to 2020, a 2020 amount that's then
Right.
then adjustable. Something. A
Or
little
put it
better.
in the master fee schedule, which we know will change every year.
Yep.
Right.
Right. And can adjust annually. Yeah. This is a bigger discussion.
Yeah.
So maybe we better hold 1305 and talk about it on the 15th.
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe we should hold it. I mean, the revision that we're talking about here, maybe we hold back a portion of this, but then also put a notation in here to have a bigger discussion about in lieu parking facilities fees, which is chapter 13. I mean, we're going to have that discussion anyway, and then just let the errata still move forward.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so but it's not correct to say it is $3,140. Neither is it correct to say a different amount adjusted as prescribed by the other section, because the other section doesn't really do that either.
Yeah, it points you in. It's almost as if you're playing hopscotch, where you're going from one section of the code to the other, only to tell you to look at a magazine that you hope the city subscribes to.
Yes, right.
That's a little nefarious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
But
it didn't
it
get
might be-
delivered that day.
Well, I am hoping it is, because it makes it difficult for us to make those calculations.
Yeah.
There might be there might be a simple way to just make a reference to the Steve, what did you say? The fee,
The master.
fee schedule, the master
I
fee
don't-
schedule,
there's a document called the master fee schedule.
schedule as approved by as established by council or as approved by council.
As
Maybe just
established by
make some
council, right?
reference
Yeah,
to
something
that.
like that would work for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then 1307, we can deal with separately if it talks about how to adjust it. But the real reference is going to be to a document that a citizen can walk in and say, show me the master fee schedule.
Yeah,
Right.
the only
and
challenge
get a
with,
number.
the only challenge with that is I'm pretty sure that it's not in the master fee schedule currently. And there, I
Oh.
think one of the
Right.
reasons why is because it is just adjusted, that there was a calculation that's done that we do, that staff does annually, and then that becomes the new normal for that year.
Let's see.
Yeah, okay.
It would be helpful to have it in the master fee schedule,
Mhm.
because in that way the work is done when it's updated annually.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, my concern right now is that the real number doesn't appear anywhere.
Right.
You have to ask staff, and staff will say, well, we did this calculation over here, and here we have this number. Well,
Yeah.
is it in the code? No. Is it in the master fee schedule? No. Those aren't good answers.
And you're right. I know of several projects that have come through and the applicants are going, well, I didn't know I was gonna have to pay extra for that. And where do we find it? So,
Mhm.
yeah, it needs to be clarified.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Clarity is a good thing.
Yeah. Clarity
Yep.
is a good thing.
Okay. So we'll take a look at how to do that. Revisit the calculation of the number and where to put it.
All right.
Great. Now, do we need then, Lucas, to vote on scheduling a public hearing for these and potentially other sections with similar changes? Or does that happen at the next meeting?
It would happen at the next meeting. I would like to get consensus from the commission tonight on moving forward with these revisions, and then the revisions that we've talked about for the July 15th meeting, where we'll have a discussion of all of those items that we've gone through, including the June 17th meeting as well.
Okay, I thought these were all from the June 17th meeting, but there are more from the June 17th meeting.
I've
lost track.
This was in addition to the June 17th.
Yeah.
So we
Okay.
had about
Okay.
in between 32 and 36 sections that we went through. And then these were the leftovers where we weren't able to get these added on to the agenda for that June 17th.
Got it. Okay.
So that's how we're
All right. So for the 15th, we're looking at on the order of 50 sections with changes.
yes.
Okay. I'd like to ask Souza, is that too much to ask the council to go through? 50 different code sections with suggested text changes?
She's on mute.
Mute, yeah.
Oh,
I said, I'm a writer.
oh, there you go.
I'm used to editing stuff. This is,
Yes.
If we have to do it, then we have to do it.
Well, keep in mind, this is a small fraction of the total, 50
Only
sections.
just begun.
I was going to ask, are you taking, we're on a break. Our last meeting is July 14, and then we don't pick it up again until August, end of August. You're aware of that?
Well, your schedule, we live with your schedule.
Yeah.
Now, I was just asking if we brought you something, not for July 14th, because it would have to be noticed yesterday probably or something.
No, we have to.
But if we gave you a packet for the end of August that had 50 pages in it with these niddling little changes, references and spelling and clarifications and such, is that too much? Do you want to break it up into smaller pieces than that?
Well, we would like for you to just give it to us like a book, that's already ready. No,
Okay.
I don't know how to answer that. I really don't. I don't mind going through it. I don't know if the others will mind if they want to do that on their break. I wouldn't mind. I mean, I might
Okay.
mind, but it's our duty.
It's boring but important, as they say.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
It's also
Okay.
interesting, actually.
Well, we'll give you for your August meeting whatever we have ready after the 15th.
Okay, so that we have 6 weeks to look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, almost 6 weeks. Yeah. Okay.
There'll probably be several more packages that size, but
Yeah.
again, you can review them and rule on them at your leisure.
Okay. Like tonight was 40 pages, and that was manageable, I felt.
Yeah. Okay.
That.
Well,
This was fine.
it was 40 pages, but it was corrections in 15 or 16 sections. You
Good.
just were given the whole section for context.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, Kathy, is it fair to say the consensus of the commission is that we should take this stuff forward to the 15th along with the stuff from our last meeting and discuss it as something that we want to have a public hearing, I guess, the first week of August?
Sure.
Is that right, Lucas?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Correct.
I would
Yeah.
be fine with
I would
that.
say yes.
Yeah, I'd love if we could keep doing batches of stuff like this every meeting until we get through it all,
Mhm.
because the harder questions come later, the ones where this section says A and that section says B. What is city council's intent?
Right.
Pick one.
Yeah.
Those kinds of questions that are going to be harder, that we can recommend, but it's really their decision,
Right.
beyond normal errata and such.
Right.
Okay, I think, Lucas, you have your consensus.
Okay.
Yep.
Good deal. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to item 3, director's exemptions.
Director's decisions.
Oh, director's decisions, excuse me.
So
And
Lucas,
exemptions too down. There's one.
I just have a question.
Oh, I'm
about
sorry.
Oh, what?
Yeah, director decisions is tab 3, but I'm sorry.
It's consolidated on one paper or one sheet.
Oh, and there is director exemptions on that
Yeah,
page.
and miscellaneous
Yeah.
and home.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Lucas, I do have a question. I don't know if you have any details about the removal of, there's 3 coast live oak trees that were removed at different properties, and they're all hazardous. Do you have any do you have any information about them? And
Is
was
it
there,
Are
was there an arborist?
the three that you're looking at here from would be tree permits T 20-017,
Yeah.
019, and 020?
Yeah. Was there an arborist report that was actually filed?
Yeah, so there were. I mean, that's something that we require even with the removal from a hazardous standpoint. And then I'm taking a harder line on each of these.
So they get filed, but there's no peer review.
No.
And they just get filed with the city, and whoever the arborist is, whatever they say, it's filed. And
Correct. Well, yes. I can tell you, I've had both Maria Delgado and Michael Inaba look at trees in my yard, and I got both of their names by calling Greg Grant and saying, I'm not looking for a recommendation here, but if you could give me a list of arborists that the city has worked with and trust, and then let me pick one. And these are all people that are on that list.
Yeah. No, I
Commissioner Lattis, just to give you a little bit of background, I'm looking at these anytime that we have hazardous trees come in. I take a closer look at each of these because I'm a little bit skeptical of the hazardous conditions.
Right.
And even a lot of the times when we receive the report, I'm asking for either additional information or I'm looking for a site visit.
Okay.
It's going a little bit above and beyond, but I've been a little bit skeptical of the hazardous component within our code, because if it's hazardous, then fees are basically waived, and then it doesn't require the replacement of that tree. Right. So we're losing trees,
right?
From an argument standpoint. So I'm always a little bit skeptical. I see.
Comment.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm just removing my planning commissioner hat and putting on my tree committee hat. But I wanted to say that the tree committee have looked at this numerous times, the very situation that you're talking about. And we had made the recommendation that, and I haven't looked at the recent one for the city, so I may be not correct in what I'm saying, but in the past, that there were more requirements of form that you would be filling out for actually any tree, but especially like a tree that's going to get removed, whether you called it hazardous or not. But specifically for hazardous, why is it hazardous? What's the like if they say, sometimes they just go diseased. I would say, what's the causal agent? And then require a replacement. And part of the reason you want the information as to what caused it, that's going to affect whether you replant or not and what species you replant with potentially. So right. Now you're looking at the bigger picture here. Maybe there is armillaria, fungus there, and you don't want to replant an oak. But if they could identify that, and sometimes you do have to take it to a lab. Sometimes you can identify it, with a hand lens or dig it up, scrape back the bark. But it's also an indicator of the health of the community forest. So, when it goes into planning, if you're starting to see an indication of, say, a certain pest over and over again, that's kind of an alert that, hey, there's something going on here that's not only affecting trees on private property, but potentially could affect those on public property, which would be street trees in the public parks. So it's just a good filter. And if you required that a tree was replaced, even if it was a 15-gallon something, at least now you've got a replacement. Or if they can't replace, that there's a minor fee that's put into the tree fund for future planting.
Yeah, so that's actually,
I'll take my hat off, but
yeah, that's some good information. And in addition to that, while we can't require it, it doesn't prohibit me from asking the question or even placing a condition as part of the permit.
Well, so that's the thing. You can place a condition.
Yeah, and I can tell you that I've done that for, I believe, all three of those, if not two of the three. just because the concern there with the removal of a tree based on its hazardous condition. So
Right, but there's no definition of like why is it hazardous and what happened.
Right. Or even the
Right.
extent, or where, where is the fungus located? Is it like in, some minute part of the tree, or is it really,
Yeah, like 80% of the tree, or we did a resistograph, or this is what we did to determine, or here's the photos, or we sent it to a lab,
yeah.
whatever.
Let me give you one example. For instance, 515 El Paseo Road, which is the first one.
Mhm.
I went on site because they were identifying that it was a hazard, a safety hazard, because the tree had leaned and was leaning on another tree, and that was hanging over an above ground sewer, basically a sewer line. And I was like, I don't believe that. So I went out to the site, and behold,
Really?
we have a sewer line above ground that then feeds itself underground. So that confirmed that. So I was like, yeah, this clearly is a potential, because it had shifted, and that was creating a concern. So we had worked out an agreement to have another tree replanting it, and in the same yard in another area. So that's an example there. So
Yeah.
it's on a case
the
by
same
case
thing
scenario.
applies to partial removal, because I know we had in our yard, back when it was still my in-laws' yard, there we had Mike Inaba. No, it was Mike Inaba, I think, came out. There was a 12-inch diameter branch of an oak tree quite close to the house that was hanging over the house.
Yeah.
And he said that tree is going to die soon, and you should remove that branch that is hanging over the house so it doesn't fall that direction, because that was the biggest of the branches. So we had that branch removed, and sure enough, 6 months later, the whole tree fell.
Wow.
It was diseased, but it was only the arborist report was to remove just a part of the tree. So those things do happen, and
Oh yeah.
they
I
happened right here.
Yeah, no, I know they do. And I just appreciate the additional attention that staff is giving to this issue. And, and I like Commissioner Nolan's suggestions on the kind of documentation and information and basically justification
Yeah,
for
good questions to ask.
It's really,
Yeah.
it's very helpful and
Well-
thorough. So I really,
The
and then
value-
maybe at some point in the future, there can be a requirement for replacement trees to be put into the code.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the value of doing this is, for many reasons, but you're also ensuring the longevity of the urban forest, and you
Right.
do mixed ages.
Right.
Number one, I mean, if you want to start with climate change and greenhouse gas emissions, if you start losing all these trees and there's no replacement, your evapotranspiration rate's going to go up. So more loss of water.
We don't need that.
We don't need that. They're great for capturing, storing carbon. I mean, there's shade, there's beauty, there's so many different
Wow.
reasons, and you can cut down on air conditioning, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, I look at it through that lens, and to me, it's like so valuable. So I mean, I don't know if this comes under our purview or what, but at some point, I think it would be to the benefit of the city to, whether it's the planning commission or some other organization, whatever, to look at that and to possibly look at updating our procedures, policy and procedures for tree work, tree removal, arborist reports, et cetera.
Yeah. Well, we do rule on tree permits. So
Well, it's a small, I think it's a really smart thing to do.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I'm completely in agreement with that, Kathy.
And part of it's just even data gathering, like I said, for the city,
Right.
where there may be a problem, where you see something that's, reoccurring and over in, different locations, that it could actually be a problem that may need to be addressed. People need to know. Yeah.
I see one here in my neighborhood, 505 Foothill Road. Reed Witters, I guess that's a relative of Monty Witters, the former city attorney.
I think that's his son.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a home occupation permit.
right.
That would make sense. Legal intake. That would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, any more questions for staff on director decisions? All right, let's move to item 4, the last. Future agenda items. 1201 San Ramon Way. I remember seeing this. It's an interesting area out there. It's way out on the edge of civilization. Feels like you go up. Is it Park Road? I think San Ramon comes off of Park Road, and you're going way off to the east edge of the city. And turns out there's a lot of open land out there.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to build a house and an ADU
Yeah, so it's a
and a
house
garage.
with an ADU on the second floor, with a 2-car garage. I will have to admit we had this on here thinking we were going to meet the public hearing deadline, but there were items that I identified that needed to be resolved prior to coming to this commission. So they're working through those right now. So we're actually looking at scheduling
Okay.
the August 5th meeting for public
Pushing
hearing.
that
It
back
will
to
be-
August 5th. Okay.
Yeah, and it will be a public hearing because it's a 2-story structure.
Yeah.
Right. Is it otherwise compliant? Is it only coming to us because it's a 2-story?
Correct.
Okay. Otherwise ministerial. All right. So we'll have more Title X joy and discussion of general plan update, I guess.
Well, I do have a question. So when do we get to talk about placing an item on the agenda? And when do we get to talk about the appeal procedure, which is, I listed it as a policy?
So
I think this would be a good time.
yeah, we could talk about it now.
Oh, so do we have?
Now,
So what is
remember,
the procedure
noticing-
of placing an item on the agenda?
I have to leave for 1 minute. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, we hear you.
You can continue, but I don't want you to end the meeting without me having my say. Okay?
Of course. Now I see Sherry has already put in here for July 15th, for example, notices due by 6/29.
Correct.
Notices being something in the newspaper that says there's going to be a meeting, or does notices include listing the agenda and the packet?
No, it's notices for it's referred to as a legal ad, or maybe a legal ad in this case, for public hearings. So that's one of the requirements that we have within the government code to perform that action. And it's within a newspaper of local general circulation.
Right. Okay. I remember seeing the notices, quarter page or 8th page notices in the Ohio Valley News.
Yep.
And so something stating there would be a July 15th meeting would be probably in this Friday's paper then.
If there was going to be a publicly noticed item, then it would be in the paper for this Friday. But we do not have one.
Okay. But because the public hearing is moving, then that notice has to be out by the 20th. Okay.
Yep. Of July.
All right. I think the general tradition, at least it may be in writing at the city council level, that any 2 members of the city council can request to have an item put on a future agenda. In general, I see 1 member requesting it of the mayor and the council consensus being yes, we should talk about that. I don't know if there's anything written down about the way the planning commission should work, but that certainly seems like a workable kind of situation to me. What is it you'd like to put on a future agenda?
Well, I wanted to know, I just wanted to know what the protocol was. But I don't, you know, I guess I'm a little bit ambivalent about the specific item, but we never finished a discussion about the absence policy from the council. And
Mhm.
so, but before it could be put on the agenda, I needed to know what the protocol was. So,
Yeah. I guess the protocol is if a couple members of the commission would like to see it on a future agenda, we'll put it on.
okay. And I don't know, do you guys want to talk about it or do you want to let it go?
I think we might be better to hold that one until we have a 5-member commission again
That's
and
fine.
see what everybody thinks
That's
about
fine.
so
Yeah.
that we can get a fuller discussion of it. The second one about the appeal procedure, I think we can probably handle with a staff report. I think it's in 10-2, was it 3002 and 3003? Somewhere like that, I think.
Yeah,
Lucas?
I don't have them in
It's
front of
in-
me, but it's
It's
something
an
to
appeal
that.
procedure, but it's in a policy, and the policies are not even posted on the city's website. It's just, anyway, it's only a discussion item, but
Right.
but we should really, I would really like to walk through the policy.
Mhm.
Well, I'd like to walk through it's more than a policy, it's like a rule, but I'd like to walk through the actual policy and then we could talk about it, because I think there's some things in there that do not make any sense at all when you look at it in its entirety. So
Okay.
it would be a good discussion item, and we could just all bring our thoughts on it together.
How about if we do that after we do the Title 10 review on the 15th?
Fine. Yeah,
Would that work?
Yeah.
works for me.
Because I'd vote for that.
Okay.
That makes 2 out of 3.
I'm fine with that too.
Kathy?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay.
I just want to make a quick comment. I was one of the commissioners who I missed the meeting. I was actually sick. The meeting I think we had at the end of February, maybe beginning of March, right before COVID, where
Right.
the topic
Yes.
came up and I wasn't there. And so I kind of word of mouth, somebody said to me, "Oh, did you know you had 4 absences? You're going to have to, reapply and all this stuff." So I was racking my brain going, I had 4. I couldn't figure out what the 4th one was. I mean, why, what it was. So finally I contacted the city manager and I said, could you just please send over, if it's not an inconvenient thing, the dates where I missed? And about a week passed, I get an email back and they said, "Oh, by the way, that was a mistake. You only had 3 absences."
Oh,
That was going on for several months. I kept thinking, okay, I'm gonna have to reapply, or should I, or whatever. But I just wanted to let you know that I'm here, and that's okay.
well, I recall the discussion of one of the absences that I think was laid on each of you,
Was it the planning?
Kathy and Bobby, was
Yeah.
going to the Planning Commissioners Academy or
Right.
one of those city-sponsored things.
Right.
That should not be included.
Right.
That's where
Well, and that's something that the commission can send its thoughts to the council.
I think we were unfairly criticized in more than one way on that absence thing, but
Okay,
but it's really the policy, and that we can bring that back later. That's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, but I'm in
Okay.
the good.
Yeah.
So,
So let's do that on the 15th after we finish Title 10 as another discussion item.
That's going to be
Oh, now you've got Title 10 errata and other revisions as a public hearing item on the 15th.
Yep, and that's going to need to
Lucas.
get moved to a discussion item for the 15th.
Okay,
Wait, so what are we, so, wait a minute. We're going to talk about.
and then Title 10 errata will be a public hearing item on August 5th,
Correct.
okay?
Oh, wait, what is it going to be next meeting then? It's not a public hearing or?
It will not be. It will be a discussion, but
Oh, discussion.
yeah, so we'll have it similar to what we did for the animal keeping ordinance, where I brought,
We're going to have a few more sections.
yeah,
Okay.
I'll bring forward that draft looking ordinance with the whereases included in it.
And then on the 15th, we can take a vote on scheduling a public hearing for it. And assuming a positive vote, then we will have the public hearing on August 5th.
Correct.
Okay. Also on August 5th, we'll want to talk about meeting topics for September 8th with the City Council.
Right.
So that's a discussion item, yes. Okay,
I see.
and are there any other items of news that you want to bring to us, Lucas, before we have our City Council liaison?
Just to confirm what anyone and everyone has heard, which is that we have two commissioners, obviously tonight, they're not here, who have both resigned. Commissioner Corbin and Commissioner Powers have officially resigned, have provided that information, the necessary information to the city clerk, and they are no longer members of this planning commission. So I wanted to make that known to this commission, that we are 3 strong currently. So if one is absent,
But we're strong.
it becomes difficult for us to have a meeting. So
Yes.
make sure you're staying safe at home.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the general plan update continues to move forward. I will have to admit that it is being reevaluated from a timing standpoint. So we're looking into that right now in terms of the timeline. So that's being worked on as we speak. So those are the 2 updates that I have.
Okay.
Does the, I mean, I know we're suffering, economic consequences from the COVID. So does the reduced revenue to the city, is that going to affect the process for the general plan or the timetable, do you think?
So here's the interesting thing about the general plan is the monies used for that are through impact fees and through grants that we've got. Now there is a shortfall in that. I want to say that it's roughly either $280,000 or $300,000, something right around there, as the shortfall. But we continue to receive funding through the general plan impact fees. So that is a revolving account that continues to generate funds to help support the general plan update. So hopefully the idea is that at one point it'll basically catch up with that cost, not within the timeline that we've got currently. And certainly the budgetary concerns that were just adopted have this included, but we'll be looking at this.
We're going to have to stretch out those expenses.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
tight. It's definitely tight.
Okay.
So, but just so you know, we've just to give you an update, the SB2 grant that we applied for back in November, we just finalized the contract. So we do have that monies going towards the housing element update as well as a general plan update, and that's to the tune of $160,000. And we just submitted the LEAP grant, which is a very similar funding source, which is at $65,000, which was due today. We submitted that yesterday and just found out today that they've extended the time period till the beginning of next year. So we've got plenty of time to work through those revisions as they deem necessary to get those monies secured as well. So we're looking forward to that. And then we're also keeping track and on the lookout for any other grants that are out there. One of my goals would be to try to get to a zero net requirement from the city standpoint, where we're doing this through grants. I think that's something that I'm pursuing aggressively. So as grants become available, we're pursuing them as well.
Great.
They're out there.
But we just it's a wait and see, I suppose, at this point.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Lucas. Souza, I think you're on deck there.
I'll walk up to the imaginary podium.
Yes.
Well, let me start by saying that every time I attend one of these meetings or watch it on YouTube, my appreciation for the work that you do grows, genuinely grows, especially tonight as I see you. It's a little bit tedious, but it's so important, especially when some of these things have not been addressed since, like the parking, since 1992. I felt like that whole part was an outdated perspective on parking. That's what, but I'll get to that in a moment. So it is like writing a book. You want to make it as user friendly as possible. So thank you for doing that work. And then yesterday, I have 7 things. I'm going to categorize them. Number 2, yesterday I found out that it was my turn to appoint a planning commissioner. Whoever I appoint has to be approved by the council on the 14th. And I made my recommendation this morning, and hopefully that will be approved on the 14th. And then Ryan Blatz is working on his selection. He's next in line. That's how it works. I sent Kathy the process. So if you're interested in the legal, what's the word, Kathy? Did you get that email from me?
What you sent this morning, I did.
Yeah, it explains the new legal process.
The districting with the district.
Yeah, but we don't have to appoint in our district, of course. Yeah. Okay, but anyway, I'm very excited by the person that I appointed, and I had a long chat with him today. I read his qualifications, and I think he'll be great, and he's eager to join you. So I hope that works out.
Okay. Is this person on the list of the people who applied?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
But he's not on any of the current commissions. Just
right.
I'll say that. Okay, and then I wanted to assure. Let me just kind of go backwards. I want to say before I forget that I support everything that both Kathys said about that we need what's the word? The tree ordinance.
Right. The tree ordinance.
So I would like to meet with the 2 of you, and then discuss. And I'm going to go back and play the video again and make some notes, because in this era of climate change, it's absolutely should be mandatory that a tree should be replaced. There's just no question in my mind that should be a legal requirement. There may be some exceptions, and we can discuss that. That can be written into the code, but as a rule, that should be a given. And then I wanted to assure you that Bill Wyrick and I are still working on the animal keeping ordinance. It would have come back sooner, but for COVID, I felt like that needed to be a real public hearing.
Oh yes, definitely.
That we should do, on Zoom. And the blessing has been that so many animal things have come up, even in the last few weeks, that we might not have thought of. So, the longer we delay, the better I feel that the ordinance will be. I take that ordinance extremely serious. I want it to be, one of the best animal ordinances in the country, if possible. That's an issue very close to my heart. And then an item I want to understand much better is annexation. I just want to put that out. How I listened, but there's so many questions in my mind for another day. And then as far as parking goes, that too is a bigger discussion. But as you deliberate, what I would like, from my perspective, what's important to keep in mind is that we're in a new era, and both driving and parking is a privilege. It's not a right. From my perspective, the city does not have any obligation to provide endless parking for people. And one of the best ways that you can get people, if you want to encourage car sharing, walking, bicycling, and public transit, start looking at parking as a privilege, not a right. You don't have to keep adding more parking spaces. And you want to encourage shared parking. That should be as much as possible. There are plenty of parking lots in Ojai that are hardly ever used. And in my opinion, we should have a paving moratorium. There will be exceptions, but as a general rule, the era of adding more parking lots, more parking spaces, we should be transitioning to a whole new paradigm as far as that's concerned. I could talk about that endlessly. Everywhere I look, land is so valuable now to think about, putting a parking lot where there could be housing. That's, from another era. Let me just quickly look.
We might have to find a new name for parking in lieu fees then. If we're not encouraging building more parking, then we want to do something different maybe.
They can, we want to look at shared parking, but we can also still have fees that we use for we need more people parking. We desperately need benches all over Ojai, and we need a cover over. It's shameful that people are waiting for the trolley in front of the Bank of America in a town as wealthy as ours with no cover. I see these people standing in the heat, and I brought that up at City Council. And if necessary, we're going to put up a temporary awning. I'm going to take an umbrella down there myself. I'm serious. I see these people just leaning, old people, an elderly person with a cane leaning against the pole because of the heat. That's not, that's not.
Are any improvements to the bus stops part of the ATP?
I don't know, but it's a good question. And I do know, quite a few of the bus stops have been redone.
Right. I mean, some of them are beautiful.
Yeah, well, there are the ones that are a little more detailed in stone and what have you, with a clay tile roof. And then for lesser stops, let's call them, there's a more modified detail that's available. I think the Public Works Department has those.
Yeah. Okay.
But I agree, and it's a good question to ask with the ATP.
Right.
That's included.
I didn't hear.
And if it isn't, it should be an add-on down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Soon. I didn't hear them offer any funding from that. But we have to find the money for it.
Mm-hmm.
No question. And I've been when I was in Eugene, Oregon, and I once went to a bus stop that was so beautiful. It was like being in an art gallery or something. Mm-hmm. And there was no stigma to taking the bus. Regular people took the bus, people that could afford a car, but they would choose, to sit and read while waiting for the bus in a very pleasant environment, nice and cool, beautiful. Then you take the bus, you don't have to hassle parking. That's, where we want to move the city in that direction, in my opinion. And then, my other questions can wait. I just was wondering, are you taking a summer break at all, or you already have had a long break, right?
We never officially have a summer break.
There's no room in the absence policy for doing so.
That's what I was saying. Listen, I hope you know that I never voted to reduce from 7 to 5. I said emphatically that should be up to you. Whether you want 5 or 7, that should not be a council decision. And I did not endorse that absence policy. I pointed out that things happen in people's lives. People die. There's illness in the family. This should, there should be flexibility with absences. They can be looked at, And if the commissioners have trouble functioning due to someone's many absences, all of that can be looked at, but it should not be, the policy, in my opinion, you have every right to ask questions about it. So I look forward to being your liaison. I'm not going to miss any meetings that I'm aware of. But if I do,
Well, terrific. We'll be here twice a month.
yeah, and I'm eager to be here. I love the work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sousa.
Thank you.
In the absence of any other business, I declare this meeting of the Planning Commission adjourned at 8:42 p.m.
Hooray.